Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. Thanks so much for joining me, and welcome to Albums That Are a Perfect 10. These are obviously going to be favorite albums and albums that we all love, but we're going to get into explaining how that is. Please meet my co-host. I got Pete Pardo from Tranquility. Thanks for being here.
What's up, Brendan? Hey, guys.
And Grant from Rock Warehouse. Thanks, bro.
How's it going? Nice to see you.
Sporting that Peaches shirt there. Used to work there myself. Pretty
It's a
cool. And then
hot topic.
yeah, and Phil Aston from Now Spinning. Thanks for joining us from the UK, man.
Hi, no problem at all. Great to
We
be
got
here.
people from all over. Pete, you're New York. Grant, you're in Ohio, right?
Yeah.
I'm in New Jersey, and Phil, of course, you're just outside of Birmingham.
No, I'm a long way outside of Birmingham. I'm
Oh,
in a
you're
place.
Cornwall.
I'm right down the
Cornwall.
end of the UK called
yes, I think we
Cornwall.
talked about that last time.
Yeah, I'm as far away from the centre of rock and roll as you could be. But I am originally from Birmingham. But yeah,
All right. Oh, that's what it is. That's what's stuck in
yeah,
my head. But anyways, these kind of things are really cool. We can pull a lot of people in from all different places, get different personalities, different areas, and expertise on things. So that's what we're going to do here today. And I wanted to go around and just take a brief moment and let everyone sort of explain in their own words what is a perfect 10 album? How did they go about selecting this? So Pete, we'll start with you.
For me, a perfect 10 album, obviously you gotta love the album for one. Number two, there can't be any songs on the album that you skip.
Yeah.
Three, for me anyway, it has to be an album that has grown immensely in my estimation over time. I loved it back in the day,
Yeah.
and I love it even more now. But the key for me at 10 out of 10 is you can't skip any song. You love every song. I may have albums that I like more than some of these
Mhm.
because there are certain songs that I hold a little bit nearer and dearer to my heart
Mhm.
on them. But I have albums that there'll be, I'll go through this when I talk about my records. There are albums by some of these bands that I like more than the ones I'm going to talk about today.
hmm
But they're not 10 out of 10 albums because there are some skippable songs on there, even though some of my favorite tracks from the band might be on those albums. But these, top to bottom, totally solid, great songs. I don't skip anything on them.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that, especially the not skipping any tracks. Because I hadn't really thought about it in that regard, except in my mind, it was I love every track that's on it. So certainly not skipping anything. But you're right, I had a hard time selecting some of these because there are albums I like more than these. But these are ones, and the other thing that you said that really, hit a spark with me or whatever, is the grown in stature. Because as I'm thinking about the three that I'm going to talk about, they certainly have. I liked them when they came out, but they've just gotten better with time. Every time I play it, I don't skip. You can put an album on, and then after a few tracks, because you know the album, you might change it or something. Now, if this one goes on, it's like a good old movie. You just watch it, you just finish it.
hmm Yeah.
Grant, how did you go about making the selection?
Well, I kind of looked at it the kind of the same way Pete did. You can't skip any tracks, but I
Mhm.
also like other things. You've got to have good production. The
Oh, yeah.
production has to jive with the band.
Hmm.
Um, and it could be the album cover has to be important too. I think the artwork, I think
Oh, yeah.
everything to make it a perfect record all has to connect. Now, what Pete likes as a perfect record might not be a perfect record for me,
No.
Yeah.
but when I really went into this, there were a couple albums that instantly jumped into my head that I went, well, how can I not talk about that? But there's also a record I'm going to talk about that is more of a recent find.
Hmm.
And I love finding records that are perfect albums
Hmm.
that maybe you never revisited or you were turned on to later in life.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring one of those up. So, and that's what I really like talking about stuff that's no one's really talking about. And no one's talking about this, but Pete probably knows probably where I might be going. Maybe he might have a
Maybe.
feeling.
I've got one album like that as well in mind. I went with
Mhm.
other ones that are big and well known. Everyone here is going to know what it is. But yeah, I decided to throw one in that's a recent discovery in the last, I don't know, 5 or so years. And it's just up there with all the others. It's a solid album from start to finish. So
But I did choose a couple from my childhood that,
yeah,
when you hear it, it changed your world.
right.
And like Pete said, over time, these records even grow in stature that you can they're like part of your DNA, and perfect record. But it took me a while to really kind of figure it out because I'm going, well, what do I want to talk about this? Someone's going to talk about that, obviously, but we'll see. We'll see where we go.
Right. All right, Phil, how did you go about this? You said when we were getting
Same like Pete and Grant, really, that it's an album where I don't skip any of the tracks. I hadn't thought what Grant just said about the cover has to be included as well, because one of mine doesn't have one of the best covers in the world, but I hadn't thought of it like that before. I found this really difficult because I found it very difficult in disentangling my emotional attachment to what was going on or how particular albums followed me through my life. So I've tried to do that. And like Pete said, I've picked one album that actually isn't my favorite by that band, but I just felt it was the one that ticked all those boxes, really. I also found this difficult because there are so many. If you'd said, and also a lot of the albums that I could have picked are outside of typical genres. They cover everything from jazz and everything. But I thought, well, as I'm on your show, Brendan, which is you are the metal man, I thought I'm going to focus on rock. So my three choices, rock.
Okay, this is going to be interesting to say the least.
Oh, it should be fun.
It should be a lot of fun. So let's dive into it. Pete, you want to give us your first selection?
Sure. Before I do, because I like what Phil just said, and I did kind of the same thing. Originally, I had one jazz fusion record in my list, and that was Return to Forever Romantic Warrior. But I could pick 3 fusion records or jazz albums. I could pick 100, right? Because there's so many perfect jazz or fusion records, in my opinion. But I was like, you know what? That would be kind of lost on Brendan's channel because I know it's not a focus. So I said, all right, I'm going to keep mine metal, hard rock, or prog, because I think that's a little bit more applicable. So, but just so you know, there are tons of fusion records that I would put into this category. So my first choice today is by my favorite band of all time. For those who follow me on Sea of Tranquility, they're like, oh God, he's going to talk about Black Sabbath again. Yes, I am. But if you know me, you know what some of my favorite Sabbath albums are. And I will tell you, most of my top 3 or 4 Sabbath records are not perfect albums. There are songs that I skip on every single one of them, but one that I do not is Mob Rules.
Oh, nice.
Even though I like Heaven and Hell more because it's got certain songs on it that to me rise above anything on here, there is absolutely nothing on this album that I ever would skip. Every song is a complete banger, from Turn Up the Night all the way over to Over and Over and everything in between. The title track, Fall on the Edge of the World, Sign of the Southern Cross. I mean, Voodoo's great. The whole thing is just absolutely amazing. And to me, start to finish, it's their most consistent album, but it's not my favorite. It's not Master of Reality. It's not Volume 4. It's not Paranoid. It's not Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. It's not Heaven and Hell. It's behind those, in my opinion, but none of them are as strong as this one, start to finish. This one is absolutely perfect, and it's got a great cover as well. Yeah. And it's produced really well. It's one of my favorite Martin Birch productions.
I was going to say Martin.
That's another thing. It's even produced better than Heaven and Hell, in my opinion.
There you go.
Brilliant choice.
It's not my favorite, but it is a perfect 10 out of 10 album.
But you like the way that record sounds, though, right?
Love it.
See, that has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah.
If you like listening to it and you go, God, just listen to it. It just sounds wonderful,
Heaven and Hell, I've said this a million times. When you look at Martin Birch and the albums that he has produced over the years, or had produced, I should say, because he's no longer with us, he, especially with non-Iron Maiden bands, because most of the Maiden albums have a very similar sound. If you listen to Heaven and Hell and then you listen to Mob Rules, both produced by him, they sound completely different. Heaven and Hell is very dry. Mob Rules is more of a wet kind of organic production, which I think suits this band a little bit better. Same thing when you go listen to his productions from Blue Oyster Cult, Deep Purple, on and on and on. He tends to, from album to album, have a kind of a different sound. It wasn't until he started producing Maiden that I think he got fairly predictable in what you'd expect from him, production standpoint. But I think this is one of my favorite production jobs from Martin Birch. It's just absolutely perfect for this band, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, he doesn't really have a sound. Like Todd Rundgren produces something and you go, oh, it's
100%. Martin Birch never did.
Never had. He never
until
had
he started working with Maiden. When he started working with Maiden exclusively, all of a sudden he got that sound. But and White Snake and
Hmm.
Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult and Purple and all the other ones he worked on, there was no set Martin Birch production style
Yeah.
in my ears, to my ears. But he got that finally with Maiden. But yeah,
Yeah, we could do a whole show just on Martin Birch albums.
God, tell me
Yeah,
about
we
it.
could do. Yeah.
He gave us some really great ones for sure. All right, Grant, why don't you give us your first one?
All right, I'm going to go with something more obscure just because it's more fun. Because everybody should have this record in the collection. I don't care what you say. Came out in 1979. Let's say you take Styx, Kansas, Queen, Sweet, you mix them up in a bowl. What are you going to get? You're going to get the 1979 album from Aviary, which I think
Oh,
is absolutely brilliant. You've got vocals, you got Beatlesque vocals on here. Is it prog? Is it rock? What the hell is it? There's really nothing like it in 1979. The songwriting is top notch. Brad Love's vocals are great. Hey, you might have to listen to it and well, first of all, if you first hear it, you'll go, "What is this?" This does not sound like anything from 1979. Now, what else could I say? It would be very refreshing for 1979, but I think this is a 10 out of 10. Now, maybe the album cover really doesn't reflect the way the band sounds too much. I don't know. You see this cover, you think, well, what are we dealing with here? But we're talking a top-notch band, top-notch production. They threw in the kitchen sink. I think it's absolutely a perfect record. I don't skip anything through it. Please check it out. Rock Candy, it came out on vinyl. You go on Discogs and look this record up. All you'll see on Discogs are like white label promos. I'm not even sure it even made it into the record stores. But Rock Candy did reissue this, so I highly recommend it. I've talked about this on in the Warehouse multiple times, but I'm trying to spread the love here. And this is one of those records I came into a lot later. I know Pete talked about this record, geez, what, a couple years ago, maybe on your
Bunch of
channel?
years ago. Yeah, I mean, we
you
reviewed
just
the
did it.
reissue of that, which was on a major label back when it first came out.
That was on
But it
Epic.
just died. It was on Epic, but it just died a quick death, and the label didn't promote it at all. Probably because it was 1979. That album comes out in 1976 or 77. We would be talking a different story today, I think.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. But please
Oh, it's
do
wonderful.
yourself a favor.
Wonderful.
Wonderful record. I love it. 10 out of 10 in my book.
Whatever you want to call it. It's a great pop album. It's a great AOR album. It's a great prog album. It's like if you love Queen and City Boy and ELO and
City
Oh yeah.
Boy.
There you
Yeah,
go. That's
great band.
another one.
Yeah, great band.
But
it's
I don't. That might have been part of the problem back in the day. Of course, there was probably no promotion.
Right.
Epic probably didn't know what the heck to do with it. It
no.
didn't fit any box.
Mhm.
But what a joy of a record to listen to. That's all I'm going to say. A classic.
Bands like that, bands like New England, bands like Angel, they came out at the wrong time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
unfortunately. Angel was a little too early. I think Angel would have been huge in like the 1983, 84. I think Aviary and City Boy was a little earlier, but New
Hmm.
England,
Yeah.
they come out in like 75, 74 to 77. They would have been really big, really big.
Yeah, that Angel. Well, you can mention that New England album. The reviewers at the time really didn't give that such a great review, but man, over time,
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
fantastic
I
album.
could give that an honorable mention because that
Mm.
first New England
England.
album, as far as I'm concerned,
Don't ever
hits
want
it
to
out of the
reach.
park.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a
Hmm.
lot of these are exactly that they've started to get the love, the attention through the reissues. Rock
Hmm.
Candy being a really big part of that, putting out a lot of albums that went under the radar. I'm going to talk about one of them when we get to me as well.
There you go. Awesome.
Okay.
All right, Phil.
Right. The first choice was really easy because I just said to myself, someone comes around to the house, you can only take one album. I've got thousands of albums, but you can only take one. Which one's it going to be?
Nice.
There you
The
go.
first, the
Great
first
one.
Montrose album. It's a template for life on this. It's been with me since it came out. As you said, Grant, is it the best cover in the world? Probably not.
Well,
It's pretty strong.
It's pretty
well,
strong. It's you know what it is, but of
It's a
course the
logo.
production.
Yeah.
Ted Templeman. And without this, there'd be no Van Halen. I mean, Ted Templeman knew how to make things sound as if they came out tomorrow. But this album, every track, and I think every track just hits the mark. Rock the nation, and it
Hmm.
even says, hands on your hip, throw your head back and shout. Make sure your homework's done. By the way, everybody. And important point for the young kids listening to this, of which I was one of them. But Bad Motor Scooter, and then a bit of sci-fi with Space Station Number 5, and that riff and that scream. Then I Don't Want It. Good advice for not taking a naff job. Good Rocking Tonight, telling you how to go out and party. Rock Candy, advice on stuff. One thing on my mind, more advice on stuff. And Make It Last. Which what a riff. Everything about it. I mean, there's nothing on the cover to. There's nothing to read. It just says guitar overdubs on various tracks. That's it. But and I also I have to. This is vinyl when it was vinyl. This is not
Wobbly.
200 gram, but this is just about 100 gram. You can almost see through it, but it
Hmm.
sounds fantastic. The Rock Candy one is probably definitive version on CD, but I just think everything about it. I remember going to a party in the 90s, and it was people playing music from that period, and I heard someone go past the stairs saying, God, I could do with a Montrose fix. And someone put it on. I mean, it's that kind of album that just. I remember someone I knew had a record shop, and every time they put it on, it sold loads of copies. It's one of those albums that when everyone's introduced to it, I think it just pulls people in. As you said, Grant, it's an album I feel that every home should have one.
I
If you
agree.
rock music, whatever you've come from, wherever your doorway was into rock music, the first Montrose album is not only my favorite album of all time, my Desert Island Disc, but I think it's the best debut album of all time. Sammy Hagar, Bill Church's bass, that bubbling bass along Bad Motor Scooter and the chorus. It's just everything about it. Denny Massey, the production, Rock Candy. I could just go on and on and on. I think it's timeless, perfect. 10 out of 10.
It's a great choice, and I had it waiting in the wings because I was like, maybe someone's going to pick it, so I'll have it here, and if no one picks it by the time it comes back to me for round number 3, I'm going to pull it out. So yeah, and you know what's great about it too, Phil? It's so compact.
Yes,
Perfection.
30 minutes. We're in and out, aren't we? Done.
Boom, kick your
Yeah,
ass and
yeah,
get
yeah.
out. Yeah.
Back in
Yeah,
the
there's
good
no.
old days.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. 15 minutes aside and we're finished.
Well,
Yeah,
that's all you should have, I
yeah.
think. Anyway.
Yeah. I did the same. I brought out 10 different albums just in case any of these double up. Let's see. All right. Well, we were talking about the Rock Candy Records thing, the reissue, also talking about semi-obscure. I'm going to go with Brownsville, who was Brownsville Station. This is
Right.
their special that came out in 1978 when they shortened their name. Um, Cub Coda on here, his vocals, the way he sings, to me, this is just a down and dirty, sleazy rock and roll album that I bought it first time ever hearing it's through the Rock Candy Records. I didn't know about this
Mhm.
before. I only knew of the band through Motley Crue covering Smoking in the Boys Room, so that's all I knew. But picking this up here, just life changer. This was just one of those albums that the first time I heard it, it sounded amazing. And every listen on it, when I put it on, I think, oh, I'm gonna, check it out or again or whatever. And then I just get into a whole Brownsville Station kick. And this thing here, just I love it from start to finish. Tom Worman is producer, so he's another one of those guys that almost any album he did, the sound of it, the production of it, I love. And this album here, just another one that's like that. Michael Lutz on bass, fantastic. He ended up in Ted Nugent's band. In fact, another one that I almost was gonna go with was Ted Nugent's Spirit of the Wild, which
All right.
it's I don't know what it is. This is later day. I think it's like 95.
Mhm.
Just I fell in love with this when it came out, and it's one of my go-to albums. But this one here, I got to go with Brownsville Station or Brownsville, right? Because they shortened it.
Yeah.
They're special.
Why do I feel like I'm going to be spending money today again? I do these damn shows and I spend money.
Funny enough, I've been thinking about getting some of the Brownsville Station catalog because it's like one of the bands I've not done a rank in the album show on SOT, and I've just never owned any of their albums, but they don't have a lot, and I'm like, oh, that's a
Yeah.
possibility.
Well,
Mm,
well, snap them up while they're available. I mean, this one being reissued, and they just did four of their albums on, I think, Wounded
One
Bird
sec.
just did it. Uh,
Oh, okay.
I'm still hunting down two or three of their albums that I haven't been able to find. I mean, they were reissued by Wounded Bird, but God, those things are so expensive. So,
yeah.
They have a little box set, one of those, four albums in one set thing
Oh,
available. I think it's the first four records.
yeah,
So I've seen that out there. It's pretty affordable. I'm like,
here we go. People
yeah,
spending
yeah. I
money.
mean, then I certainly recommend
curse is real, people. Let me
for
tell you.
everyone watching.
Well, Brendan, how did you? I know you heard Motley Crue smoking in the boys'
Right.
room, okay?
Yeah.
But what made you buy that particular CD? Was that had you had others before,
No,
or
nothing. No, this was my
what
first thing
made you
about.
just
Wow.
decide to buy that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, because it was Rock Candy Records.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, well, I've done that too.
Right. I was
Go
at
through and just order something. Yeah.
well, I mean, anything they put out, I have loved. There hasn't been a single thing that Rock Candy has put out that I didn't think was good. So when I
Hmm.
saw this and I knew the connection to Motley Crue, it's also later era. It was 78, so I knew it was going to be rocking hard. I knew Michael Lutz from Ted Nugent. So, read the little bio. It got me all excited, but I also found it in a used record store, so I didn't pay very much
Oh,
for it.
nice.
It
Yeah.
wasn't yeah, because it is different if I'm like going online and I'm shopping and I had access
Hmm.
to it all, but this was staring me in the face. And I thought, what the heck? I'll give it a chance. And I can't believe because it literally blew my mind. I was listening to it before we started the show here today, just to get because it was so good.
Brilliant.
All
All
right.
right,
Well,
Pete,
I'll be putting an
let's
order in.
There you
yeah,
go.
let's see if we spend more money. Let's keep going.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go all the way back to 1974 for the second album from this British guitar player. It is his best album, in my opinion. It's my favorite album from him, and every song is just an absolute classic. Even the deep cuts are absolute classics. It's Robin Trower's Bridge of Sighs right there. He's got other great albums. That debut is pretty damn good too. For Earth
Yeah.
Below is pretty
Hmm.
great. A lot of really good albums in his catalog. But man, nothing really clicks from start to finish quite like Bridge of Sighs does. It starts off with Day of the Eagle, which is one of my favorite songs from him. It's so, so good. It goes from that into the title track, into In This Place,
Oh, yeah.
into The Fool in Me, the amazing Two Rolling Stones, the underrated About to Begin, Lady Love, and a little bit of Sympathy. Almost every single song on this album became a live staple for him throughout the 70s and even up to this day. It's an amazing blues rock, hard rock, psychedelic rock album, whatever the hell you want to call it. The production is amazing. His guitar tone is amazing. And the drumming by Reg Isidore is killer. And the vocals from Jimmy Dore are some of the best vocals of the 70s. The
Yeah.
guy was one of the most underrated singers out there. If you love Paul Rogers and you haven't listened to any of this Robin Trower stuff with Jimmy on vocals, you need to. An amazing 10 out of 10 album, and it gets better with age.
Oh,
Bridges.
Some
totally
of
agree. Totally agree,
Brower's
Pete.
best playing on that too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, what brilliant. Absolutely
Of the
brilliant.
studio albums, yeah. I mean, some of the live albums are
Yeah.
mind blowing. But yeah, from the
It's
studio album perspective,
it's
I mean,
Hmm.
just the
to me, it
sequence.
doesn't get much better than his first three albums.
Yeah. It's
Studio
just
albums.
that the sequencing and as you said,
Ah,
Pete, those
perfect.
two
Yeah.
those ballads, the voice, the feeling in it, and the way that I mean, and the title track where other guitarists would have filled that full of notes towards the end, but he doesn't. He just lets it hang, and it's just fantastic.
Yep.
Hey, lets it breathe. That's one of the things that I noticed, at least with it. And I'm relatively new to him. I only
Yeah.
started getting into him last year or the year before.
Wow.
Is what the album, his 50th anniversary or whatever of it. The box set was coming out. Everyone's talking about it. So I said, let me go pick up, the album and give it a listen. I was pleasantly surprised by it.
Oh
So
yeah.
you just mentioned sequencing. That is also very important on these perfect albums
It
Yeah.
is.
because if you take it out of sequence, if you jumble the songs around, it might not be quite
Yeah.
as
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
impactful.
Especially
If
not
you
on
do
this one,
that.
because especially on side one, a couple of those songs kind of just segue right into the
Yeah, they
next.
do. They do
And
with that
this,
kind of
same
yeah.
way with
Yeah.
this, it kind of
Yep.
segues into each other. So once you get used to it, it's just like, well, I'm all worked up. Rock candy right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get that one, Grant. Yeah.
Oh, Phil will change your world.
All
But
right.
sequencing is very important. Yeah.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I love peaks and valleys in my listening. I don't want everything to just be the same kind of song all the way through it. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
the way an album kicks off and the second track is hugely important in my opinion, because you can have a great first track, but they can kill an entire record if that second track is, up.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're going to do the slower song or a different style song or the whatever it is, you got to sometimes push it down in the album, have it come a little later on after you've gotten that groove and everything going on it, and then you can move into something else. But I agree, all the records that I'm going to talk about today, absolutely the sequencing on it is
Hmm.
perfection.
Yeah, 100%.
So on that note, Grant, why don't you go ahead and
Okay.
an album that has perfect sequencing?
This does have perfect sequencing. Now, we're talking about a band that back in the day, Rolling Stone hated. Absolutely hated. I know people go,
So many
Grant,
bands.
Rolling Stone, who cares? Well, when you're a kid, you don't have any money, you go through the record, you're looking, reading reviews because you only have so much money.
No internet, right? So
No
Yeah,
internet.
yeah.
You have to go by reviews. The days where people looked at Rolling Stone as the gospel, where those are gone.
Or
But
print.
this is a band that I discovered back in the day when I was a kid, and it was one of those things where the heavens opened up, blah blah blah. Now I've always put down this record, but I think this is the best record this band ever did. And we're talking The Game by Queen. No,
Mhm.
I'm lying. I'm
Oh,
talking A Night at the Opera, because people know if you've watched my show, the game just drives me up the wall. Queen, Night at the Opera, 1975. You've got Roy Thomas Baker production. Speaking of sequencing and production, you've probably seen the what is that documentary where they're talking about what album classics or something
Yeah,
where
yeah,
they're going. It's amazing this album sounds as good as it does because think of all the overdubs. Think about just for them to put together Bohemian Rhapsody. And it
Mm.
sounds this good. It's like, people say Dark Side of the Moon is a audiophile album, but there's about 80 bazillion overdubs and it still sounds great. This has, I think, this is the perfect Queen album. This is the peak as far as I'm concerned. Everything was running on all the pistons. They just had a tune up, it seems like. But you got Death on Two Legs. Come on, what a way to start out a record. You got Prophet Song, Love of My Life. You've got ballads. You've got songs that sound like the 20s. And on paper, you would look at it and you would think, well, how can that work? But it does. I think now you might like other Queen albums better, but this is my favorite Queen album. Though I like Day at the Races, I like News of the World. News of the World might be my favorite because that was my gateway drug. But when you look at it, I think this is an absolutely 10 out of 10. Queen never achieved what they achieved here ever. They certainly didn't do it on the game. But Night at the Opera, this is one of the records that popped into my head immediately when we talked about this subject.
You
You know,
got
it's
me all
funny.
you got me all excited with the game. And that's the one I thought you were doing. I
He
No,
love
pulled that
wait,
up. I was
no,
like,
no,
no, he's not picking that
no,
one.
I'm
that
not
is
picking the game.
that is my favorite Queen album. I
Of
love
course.
that.
Well, where'd you come into it, Brendan? When did
Yeah,
you
yeah.
come into it?
My older brothers were playing that on a record player, so I heard it through them. And the game was the first thing I ever heard from them.
It's a dual.
There's some good
Yeah.
stuff on the game. Dragon Attack's great, great.
Oh yeah.
But the cracks, this
Oh,
is where the cracks started to form, as far as I'm concerned. Now I don't know what Phil's gonna say because him being in the UK, I think everybody in the UK just thinks the whole Queen catalog is absolutely phenomenal. I'm curious what you think about. What do you think?
yeah. What do you
Of
think?
that album, Grant, it is over here would be seen as the top of the mountain.
Okay.
For me personally, it would be Sheer Heart Attack.
Mhm.
Is my favorite Queen album, and I do really love the first one as well. So I think that those first three, because they
Mhm.
were, I think what makes Queen so original is the fact they just crossed over. There were no genres as far as Queen were concerned. They could be, as pop, funk, jazz, 20s music, heavy metal, prog, everything. They could do anything, and the fans didn't blink. So I think, but I remember so well Night of the Opera coming out because everybody had it. It's a bit like Fleetwood
Mhm.
Mac's Rumours in 1977. It was one of those albums that everyone had. everyone, whether they liked rock music or not, everyone had a Queen album, and if they had a Queen album, it was that one. They broke out with that to, whereas like Queen One, it was the rock audience, and then once they got to Night of the Opera, they were just out and running. They could do
Mhm.
anything then.
I think a
Yeah.
lot of the people that I've met who don't like Queen and don't get Queen dislike them for all the reasons that we're talking about, because most of those albums have a little bit of everything. To some
Yeah,
people, stylistically being all over the place like they are is a turnoff. But I think it's what makes them unique and what makes them great.
yeah,
But I think on Night at the Opera, I think that's the record that did it best.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
This,
yeah,
yeah,
great.
you've
totally,
got
totally.
disco on here. Yeah, you've got rock, then you've got disco, but you also have some crappy song. Don't Try
No.
Suicide.
You won't
The
convince
thing
me.
And
is,
then
is
there's the
that,
album that comes after that. That's a whole other
Well,
story.
that's a whole other thing. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, right.
but Pete, at least Hot Space sounds is a Queen album as far as I'm concerned, because I looked at that. I know we're on a tangent. I am sorry. You look at that later Queen stuff, you look at the works, and that's where Queen is going, oh, shit, we screwed up. We did Hot Space, but yeah, they're doing what they want to do, whether call it a Freddie album, call it a John Deacon album, whatever. But the works is them backpedaling and going, oh, crap, we've got to sound like Queen again. They lost that US market.
Totally.
Hot
Yeah.
Space totally killed them.
Yep.
Um, I don't mind Hot Space for what it is, because it's Queens doing what they want to do. They're not trying to emulate something that they had before, you know. The film may have a totally different look at that, but
no, no, no.
All
I
right.
don't think that their songwriting as Queen progressed, I keep listening to it and I'm going, yeah, there's a good song here and there, but what happened to the great songwriting that they had? Because they would put out a whole record. News of the World, there's not a clunker on there. Jazz, there's no clunkers.
Jazz is amazing.
Jazz is amazing.
The other thing about them, of course, is that it doesn't matter. Everyone wrote in Queen. Everyone wrote their own songs, but they all sang like Queen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You go and go, oh, that's it's not like with the Who. That's obviously an Entwistle song.
But
That's
the
with Queen.
great
They all sang like Queen.
but the great thing with this era is that they all traded vocals. That was much more of a group effort. It didn't become the Freddie Mercury show.
Yeah,
Yeah, true.
I loved it when they all sang,
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tangent.
All right. On that note, let's bring it back, Phil.
Okay. Well, it's not a mystery to know that one of my favorite bands is Deep Purple, so I am going to feature them
Okay.
in this. But as Pete said at the very start, my favorite Deep Purple albums are Burn, Made in Japan, and Come Taste the Band, and it isn't one of those. I had to try and really think which one should I pick. So I've chosen Machine Head because I just feel that on this the set list on this as a set list, because it almost became Made in Japan in a way. It's the melodies, the space, the production is Martin Birch, and it might sound a bit clinical, but in some places, but there's a lot of space and a lot of clarity between the instruments. But when you look at what's on it, Highway Star and the production at the start with the screams coming in from Ian Gillan, the iconic guitar solo by Blackmore and the keyboard solo. Maybe I'm a Leo. They played that live as well. Nice blues shuffle. Pictures of Home, of course, took on a new life when Steve Morse joined and it became part of the live set. But a beautiful song. Never Before was the first track I ever heard by them. And of course, that has the B-side, When a Blind Man Cries, which technically should be part of this, but I
Oh,
know
yeah.
for this exercise it isn't. But obviously, it has Smoke on the Water on it, and it has Lazy on it, and it has Space Trucking on it. So it's one classic after another. And the melodies, as I said, the songwriting, it's 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 more than hard rock. It's an album where you come away and you remember it
Mhm.
beyond the fact that it has riffs and it has solos and it has, and just Ian Gillan. There were no backing vocals. It's not like we've just been talking about Queen. Purple was just Gillan. They didn't do that at all. But all of the songs are hummable. They all have they're all memorable tunes. I just think it's perfect. That's probably the definitive version is the 40th anniversary edition when you get like multiple versions of the same album. But if you're a fan, then you'll understand why that's important. But yeah, Machine Head for me.
How many copies do you have of Machine?
Um,
Vinyl, CD, the box set, more?
Be honest, Phil.
yeah,
Be honest.
I can't. Well, Sue's down the other end of the room, so I can't
Oh,
really
okay,
suggest it.
okay.
More than
Okay.
more
Yeah,
than
she doesn't need to know, right?
No, no.
The code of men. We won't say a word.
We
Phil.
know, we know. It's multiple. Thank you
Yeah,
for
it's
picking
multiple,
that,
yeah.
Phil. I mean, I was going to pick In Rock because it's my favorite Deep Purple album. It's a 10 out of 10. It's my favorite album of all time, but I'm thinking, God, do these people really want to hear me talk about In Rock again? So I'm like, I think Phil's going to pick a Purple album. I'll let him tackle that. So yeah.
Well, Phil, there's one thing I do want to say about that. You thought the production's a little sterile. I don't find it at all because this is a headphone album. If you wanted to be like right in the middle of a Deep Purple recording session,
Hmm.
you feel like you're right there. That's what I like about it. It's very intimate sounding. It's like you're getting a glimpse right into their world. I agree with you 100%
It's
on
one
that
of their
record.
best productions of the decade, I think.
That's wonderful.
I think, I mean, as you say, Grant, through headphones, when Highway Star starts and those keyboard chords come in and the screams start coming up all overdubbed over each other, it's just so exciting.
Yeah,
It's
I love that record.
yeah,
Glover's Rickenbacker bass sound on that
yeah, yeah,
before he
yeah,
put pickups in it.
yeah.
He's at least on here, he still sounds like a Rickenbacker bass, but
And even
man, I dig it.
the little things like the decaying end of this solo on Smoke on the Water. I
Yeah.
mean, again, in other people's hands, there would have been about 55,000 notes there, but it's just measured. And it's very melodic, very
The
greatly thought.
drums on this record sound wonderful, I think,
Mm.
too. Oh my God. See, I totally get it. Even though you might like In Rock better, well, like Pete says, but
Yeah.
still, you have to admit this was their
Mm.
crowning achievement. No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, it's got a real live feel to it without the audience.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
got all the energy of a live show without the audience in it. For me, that's what pulled me into it. And talk about sequencing. This album here, the way it kicks off. And of course, as you said, this basically becomes in Japan, it becomes their set list. But the way that the album kicks off and carries you all the way through, it might as well be either a greatest hits or a live show, the way that the
It
songs
is,
pop
yeah,
up
it
and
is,
how
and
it
it's the art of the opening track on side two as well, isn't it? Which you don't get with CD. You know, Smoke on the Water opens side two. It's the way they thought that out.
Mhm.
Because nowadays, of course, that would have probably been the opener on side one, but
yeah,
in the streaming age that we live in,
Yeah.
it's true. Some of
Highway
that,
Star is a hell of an opener.
yeah.
One of
yeah,
the
it is.
unsung
It is.
classic openers of all time, right?
Yeah, yeah. Side one, track one of any Purple album.
Yep.
Top notch.
Mm.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm going to go the complete opposite way, where probably everyone will think the production on this is horrible, but it's an album that I love from start to finish. I'm going with ZZ Top's Recycler.
Oh, right.
The bigger albums, Eliminator, Afterburner, and yes, I do love the 80s era sound, the synthesizer sound, and all that sort of stuff. But 1990, this album here, I think was the culmination of those two. The first one started bringing in that 80 synthesizer sound. The second one, Afterburner in 85, overdid it. I think they got it right here. But when you mentioned, Grant, at the beginning of this sequencing, I immediately thought
Yes.
of the album. This album opening with Concrete and Steel, going into Love Thing and Penthouse Eyes. You know, the hits off of it weren't as big. It does have Double Back from, what was it, Back to the Future 3.
Yeah, love
Right?
that track.
So that had been a big song for this, probably the biggest one that's on the album itself. Give It Up was released as the first single, but My Head in Mississippi, they still play that live. It was a big radio hit, despite nothing else on here really doing it. But that blues song, the riff on that, like Lagrange kind of, just an absolute fantastic album. But I think in terms of sequencing, this is one of those ones that just hits all the marks. Even the 2000 blues, and I'm not a big blues person, but I love this song. It comes in track number 8, so 2 tracks before the end. It slows it up a bit, builds it back up with one of the singles they released, Burger Man, which I think has a great guitar riff in it, and then closes with Double Back. Big hit off of it. And by the time I get to that, I just want to start the album over. And, you know, this is one of the ones that's in my car. So it just starts. I'll leave this on for days. And the
Wow, Brendan, I never know what you're going to bring up.
Yeah, I know. I could have
Dang.
pulled these, but
I'm kind of like, what's he going to talk about next?
yeah, well, wait for the last one.
Wow.
Okay.
Something different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you guys are ZZ Top fans or were gonna select a ZZ Top album, what would it be? Just real quick.
Me,
Yeah.
I would pick DeGuello,
Yeah.
DeGuello,
Trace Hombres for me, without question.
butcher it. Whatever came out in 79, that I think was the peak.
Gayo, yeah.
Right.
Because I love that is a 10 out of 10 in my book. The
Okay.
production is good. Oh my God. And I must say this, the guitar on that record, some of the best Billy Gibbons guitar parts ever. The Strat tone on that record, absolutely the best Stratocaster sound on the planet.
And how cool is it that he went from playing mainly Les Pauls throughout the 70s, transitioning into his Strat period, and
Yeah.
it was still Billy.
Very true.
But it had that Strat sound that everybody wants.
Yeah.
It's very stratty, glassy, that glassy sound, and his slide playing. I could listen to that record over and over again. I love it. God damn. I'm glad you brought, I'm going to have to play it.
Love the ZZ Top.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Some extra perfect 10 albums thrown in there.
There you go.
All right, Pete, you want to go with number 3?
All right, so for my number 3, so I tell you, every ounce of me wanted to pick the first Boston record.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
But I was like, I do skip Let Me Take You Home Tonight from time to time, even though everything else is drop dead amazing. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to pick Boston today, but I am going to pick Close to the Edge by Yes.
That's my favorite.
Oh, you'll make Rand cry.
I mean, there's only 3 tracks, all epic tracks. They're all amazing. The title track is, it doesn't get much better. I mean, we all know the history of this album. The Close to the Edge track was put together and pieced together by all these little things that they were working on, and boom, it's absolute perfection. It's like one of the greatest like jigsaw puzzle patchwork songs in the history of rock that just absolutely works. You got the gorgeous And You and I, which, I mean, the guitar work from Steve Howe, Rick Wakeman, John Anderson, so good. And then my personal favorite track on the album is Siberian Khatru. What a closer. I mean, that Mellotron to open it up, that bass from Squire, Bill Bruford's intricate drumming. I mean, it's just such a quirky, just kind of cool and fun song. I just absolutely love it. It's the best prog album, the greatest prog album of all time. It's my favorite Yes album, and it is an absolute classics. I think they have a few 10 out of 10 classics in their catalog, but this is the one that reigns supreme for me. So, Close to the Edge.
Yeah,
Down by the river.
Can't argue with that, but I
No.
love Fragile, though, too. I love Fragile.
You know what, Grant? A couple of the little solo things on Fragile to me are kind of throwaway. Not the Squire piece. That's the reason why I always rank Close to the Edge over Fragile. The other songs are great, like
Yeah, I
South
think
Side of the Sky.
Mine would be, I think my favorite Yes album was the Yes album, and then Going for the One, and then Close to the Edge. But Close to the Edge
both
is
great.
Well,
perfect.
my favorite Yes album's Drama. No,
Drama's fantastic.
I love Drama.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Relayer is great too.
Yeah, intense relay is, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, fantastic.
Well, great stuff.
All right,
Damn.
Grant.
All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it all comes back to Cheap Trick. And how am I not going to do a show without talking Cheap Trick? Now, Martin Popoff probably totally disagrees with me because I don't understand his logic on this. He's not a Tom Werman fan. I love Tom Werman. Tom Werman could do no wrong with Cheap Trick. He knew exactly what to do. He could find the actual Cheap Trick sound and transfer it to vinyl or CD, but then embellish it. You could have strings on stuff. You could have keyboards on it, but it still has that pop element, but then it still rocks hard. And what is the best Cheap Trick album? I'm going to go with Heaven Tonight. This is where I think everything was absolute perfection. Though I like In Color, I like Dream Police, I like the
Dream
debut.
Police for me, man.
Yeah, I
But
was
that's a
gonna
great
say.
But
album.
this, there's something about this has got Surrender on it. The sequencing's perfect. You've got On Top of the World, Auf Wiedersehen. You've got Heaven Tonight, the title track. It's very kind of dark sounding. It's not an uplifting record. Suicide, Going to Heaven, things like that. You got the remake of California Man by The Move
Yeah, it's
on the
good.
radio. They used to play that all the time. Stiff Competition, High Roller. Come on. I love it. Perfect record. I love the production on it. This is where Rick Nielsen sounds like Rick Nielsen.
Oh,
You listen to like the Todd Rundgren album, it sounds like Todd Rundgren playing his Ovation 12 string. Where's Rick Nielsen at? Where's that Cheap Trick sound? I want the sound I get on Budokan transferred here. So, and I think you get that on here, even though you've got keyboards, synths, whatever. It's all embellished, but it's like a work of art. So that's my
I love your energy on this.
this is my first record that I got into with them. It was just, and
No
I've
way.
told that story before when All Shook Up came out. My buddies, we were all hardcore Cheap Trick fans. When that came out, we heard All Shook Up and we went, uh-oh, something's off. Now, Martin Popoff loves All Shook Up, but I think that's where the songwriting started to go down. I think Rick Nielsen ran out of songs. Not on this record. Holy crap. Every track on here, brilliant. And Rick Nielsen's one of my favorite songwriters. But hey, you're only 25 once. The momentum, you can't produce art every time.
True.
I think this is where you had perfect art.
Those first four albums are all classics.
Yeah, they are totally.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like All Shook Up now because when you look at it compared to like some of that 80s crap, it's absolutely brilliant. You compare that to The Doctor, good Lord Almighty, help me. You can see the brilliance of All Shook
I've
Up.
tried to get into those two albums, and I cannot.
Well, this is a word of advice. Don't sue your record company.
Oh, did they go
Because, well, they sued them and then they lost, and then CBS had them. You know.
Yeah.
And then you've got The Doctor and Lap of Luxury and yeah.
Cheap Trick Light.
Yeah.
That's not Cheap Trick.
All right.
This is Cheap Trick, baby.
What's your third and final?
Right. My third and final is a record that I discovered in a local library when I was trying to find something new to discover and to listen to. And I took a chance on this album just because of the way the cover looked. I'd never heard of the band in my life. I knew nothing about them. You know, that time when you want to find something so that when you go down the pub with your mates, you can go, "You ever heard of blah, blah?" And they go, "No." And you go, "Oh, brilliant." It's Mother's Finest.
Yes.
And the album is called Iron Age.
That is great.
So
I've never heard it. I've never heard it.
I picked this is my kind of like more left field one, but I remember looking at it and thinking, I don't know is this a rock band?
You
It
also
looks like Alien. There's nothing. The people are called Glenn Murdoch on backing the rhythm guitar, Wizard on bass, Moses on guitar, BB on drums, and Baby Jean on vocals. I mean, who are these people? It's produced by Jeff Glicksman, or he does rock, so maybe it is. And the thing's called Rock and Roll 2, the number 2 night. That sounds a bit Kiss, might be. And so I just went home, put it on, and Moving On opens up, and the production, the size, the vision of this, the rumbling, bubbling bass, and the guitars, it's just huge. And obviously it's a female vocalist. I didn't know that, she was a black singer. I knew nothing about them. And it was just absolutely incredible. Track after track, it was like paddling in the sea, and each wave comes and knocks you over, and each time you get up another one comes in. It was just each one. Love Drug, Rock and Roll Night, You Turn Me On, All the Way, Evolution and Illusion Come Over to My House. The riffs, the clarity of the guitar and the bass and the guitar solos, and her voice, the way she interacts with the riffs and the pacing of it quickly became one of my favorite albums. And it was me going down to the pub and saying to my mates, Mother's Finest. You heard of them? Never heard of them. You've got to get this album, Iron Age. And I got everyone on side, and then it didn't sell. So the next thing they did was this, which was very different.
Yeah, I never even
Looks like Flash Dance.
Yeah. And I think this was their problem. They always thought, well, we've done a metal album. No one bought it. Let's do disco. And then later on, they went back to, metal with Black Radio and play this record music. I think it was great album, but this one to me is perfection. It might, it might falter towards the last track called Earthling, perhaps, but to me, once you're in the groove of this thing and it's metal, it's hard rock, it's got bits of funk in it, but it's the guitar sound. Jeff Glicksman's production. It's just huge.
Right.
And her voice, as I said, it's another one of those albums. If you don't know what it is, and it's a Rock Candy release as well, just listen to this. It's huge.
I just bought it. Thanks, Phil. Thank you.
Well, that was fast. Yeah.
Well, I believe everything. You guys recommend something. I don't want to live without it. Come on, I'm missing something.
Very, very important. I mean, it's just her voice is so powerful. It's like Tina Turner in a metal band. It's just incredible.
I'm trying to find Brownsville Station. I see Air Special came out, Rock Candy 2018. It came out on Wounded Berg in 2006.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You go over to Rock Candy's website. I think.
Usually I buy it straight from them because it doesn't take them. You can order it from Rock Candy.
Yeah.
You'll get it in a week.
Yeah.
In the States. Same with Cherry Red. All that Cherry Red stuff, you can order from their website. Not any more than any place else. You get free shipping from Cherry Red. Mm-hmm. It's a no-brainer, and you get it in a week. But but it's still in print. Brownsville Station still in print.
I believe through their website. I don't think you can find it on Amazon. I don't know if it's being sold in stores or anything.
God, I love these shows, but I hate these shows.
Well, don't worry, you won't be buying the last one that I'm going to show here.
You never. Hey, Brendan, you don't know that. You don't know that.
But Phil, you made the point, right? My channel is predominantly a rock and metal channel, and everyone knows I'm a huge glam metal fanatic, so I've got to throw at least one of those in here. And I'm going with Rat Detonator, their 1990 album.
I like Rat.
Not at the cellar, no.
Invasion of Your Privacy of the earlier 4 albums before this. I'd probably pick that. But for an album that from start to finish is consistent, that sounds good, it's co-written with Desmond Child, and I love everything that guy ever wrote.
Huge fan.
Don't know what it was about his writing, but that sound for me is part of the whole glam metal thing. And so an album full of that sort of stuff, I think this is the best album Rat ever made.
Wow.
You've got your big hits on it, Loving You's a Dirty Job and Shame, Shame, Shame that came off of it.
Yeah.
But the deeper cuts that are on here are the ones that I think are far better than that. All or Nothing. It's got like a Way Cool Jr. style feel to it. Can't Wait on Love. It's just blistering lead work from Warren DeMartini on here. And the ballad that should have broke him huge, Giving Yourself Away. I don't know why that was never released, why it wasn't pushed, but this album for me, hands down, it's another one of the ones that goes in the car that I put on and it just plays on repeat. I love it. I can listen to it anytime. Grown in Stature, absolutely.
I love this show because I'm going to go away and play the ZZ Top, and I have that Rat album, and I always just think about the cellar, and I just automatically gravitate towards those, but I haven't played that for ages. And Avary, I've obviously got to go and buy that. So
100%. I just ordered Brownsville Station off Rock Candy site, so with shipping and everything from the UK, it was only $16.
Whoa.
It's way cheaper just to go to the Rock Candy site and buy it.
Yeah, because otherwise there's a markup on it when like Amazon.
Yeah.
You'll get it in a week.
Yeah, it's okay.
God, well, now I'm buying Detonator too. Damn it, Brendan.
That would be awesome. If anyone
I don't have Detonator.
Buying Rat Detonator, I'll be very happy. I almost did do it. I was going to do Blue Oyster Cult.
Martin Birch again. Yeah.
This is a perfect 10 album. And I
yeah.
thought this would fit the crowd. Like some of you were trying to fit more towards the channel, and I'm thinking I want to fit more towards the guests that I have on. So I almost went with this one, but at the end I said no, I got to do it. I have to have a glam metal album.
That's cool.
Grant, the Brownsville Station collection is called the Complete Big Tree Recordings. It's their first 4 albums.
Yeah, because this other record's on Epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I'm going to get that too, Pete.
Yeah, I'm going to get that as well. Yeah.
The one that you just mentioned there, Pete, is that the Wounded Bird reissue of the 4?
It's the original album classics, right?
Yeah, the original album classics.
You probably get that on Amazon, I bet.
Yeah, it's $12 for 4 albums.
Oh,
Here
yeah.
we,
I'll add
here
that
we
to the
go.
list.
Because
Next
Wounded Bird
darn it.
reissued those 4 albums and did it as a 2 CD set. Called it the same thing. So that's
People are going to curse our names.
yeah.
Oh, the Complete Big Tree Recordings, $11.98.
Yeah.
Oh, they've got Air Special on Amazon for $15.99, but whatever. I bought it through. I mean, I'm supporting. I love what Rock Candy does. I'm not anything to do with Rock Candy, but I'm a big fan.
So
Big
am I,
Tree.
yeah.
We love them.
We do.
Yeah, we love
Absolutely.
There's so many things I got turned on to because of that label that I would never have ever heard.
Yeah.
Mm.
Totally thankful.
Yeah,
for them
totally
for that.
agree.
Totally agree. God, love this stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we can do a future episode about favorite Rock Candy record releases that turned
That'd
us.
be good. Yeah.
Oh, I'm all in on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Count
right.
me in on that one.
All right, so I just bought. Grant, your wife is gonna kill you. I just bought the big tree thing.
You got to move your computer away from you when you're.
Yeah, I think that's your problem, Grant.
Every
You
time
think that's what it is?
Yeah.
I unfortunately have 2 here, so while I'm like, oh,
Yeah, you can see Pete always gives it away because he's like
I'm looking off to the side. I'm on Amazon or I'm on Discogs or whatever, and I'm just
he's researching.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yep.
That's what's fun about these shows and these kind of episodes is hopefully getting turned on to new things. And for those of you watching out there, hopefully we turned you on to some new stuff or reminded you of great albums you have in your collection that maybe you just haven't given enough love to. So let's go around the room. And Pete, what are you doing on your channel? What's upcoming?
Upcoming, well, I'm not sure when this is airing, but
Air this on Monday.
Monday. Okay, so yesterday we had ranking the albums of Omen, the great US 80s kind of underground metal band. Rich Catino and John Gaffney from Lair the Alchemist joined me on that, so that was a pretty cool show. We've got a tomorrow in the Prague seat. We're going to go back to 1975. We're going to celebrate 2 albums that came out in 1975 that are turning 50 years old this year by the same band, Rush. You know the 2 albums, Caress of Steel and Fly By Night, both released in 1975. We're going to talk about both of them and how important they were to the evolution of Rush as they went throughout the 70s. So that's coming up. And Sunday, Mr. Arthur and I will be doing a double shot of ranking the albums. We're going to be doing for 2 catalogs that are pretty small. So we're going to do 2 episodes. We're going to rank the albums of Neil Schon and Jan Hammer. They did 2 really, really cool albums. And then we're going to do ranking the albums of the Traveling Wilburys. So that's all coming up on
There you
Sunday.
go.
And all sorts of other stuff. Martin Popoff's back with me this week, Friday morning at the Funhouse, and new album reviews. Got the new Bumblefoot. I'm going to review the new Judas Priest Rockarola remix, and got new Thunder Mother, Gin Lady, all sorts of cool stuff. So yeah, lots happening.
That Thunder Mother is really good, by the way.
I haven't heard it yet. I'm going to be spending the next couple days on it. So
You know what? When I see Pete sitting there and he's talking about what's coming up and he's going like this, we're looking at can you imagine what's going on behind that?
I know.
He's looking at. There must be like a city of CDs behind him.
Hours, yes, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
I mean, you know what's back here, right?
Yes.
Too,
right.
yeah. So,
Kind of goes back to our other show.
Yeah,
That's
it
right.
does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Storage. All right, Grant. What
All
are
right.
you coming up on your channel?
Well, this is going to come out on Monday, but so last night is episode 1. I had Larry Graves on the show, and we're going to go through the Captain Beefheart catalog. So we started with Safe as Milk and Strictly Personal. So we looked at those 2 records. On the Contrarians, we're doing the Wednesday live chats again. We took a couple weeks off, couldn't get people together. So that's back in action. And I don't know what the topic is, but that's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Week from Sunday, I guess, Guitar Hack will be on my channel. He will be co-hosting a listening party with me, and we're going to be doing post-punk.
I
He
love
chose the topic. Evidently,
Awesome. Ah, that's a
Hack
great
is
guy,
into
yeah.
post-punk. I
Yeah.
went, whatever you want, you're the guest. So
that.
that's what we'll be doing.
Punk. There's a whole like subgenre of it that's really great in my opinion. Hitman, Radio Birdman, all that sort of stuff. It's fantastic. I'll have to
And
tune into
then,
that episode. All right,
so
Phil.
there you go. And then I am looking forward to talking some Neil Schoen, Jan Hammer, and Traveling Wilburys. We'll be good. A lot of stuff coming up, ladies and gentlemen.
That's good. It's going to keep everyone busy tuning into all these channels. Phil, what do you have coming up on your channel?
I've just interviewed Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull about the new album.
Nice.
So that was really exciting. I've got a show coming up with Larry Graves, looking at ranking our top ELO albums. I'm also doing a show about the top 25 most emotional rock tracks of all time, which would be
here during
Is that for Valentine's Day?
yeah, it could be, couldn't it? Yeah. It's my Valentine's Day special. Yeah, that's what it is, and the weekly playlist show as well. But yeah, lots coming up.
All right, fantastic. Well, those of you watching this that maybe haven't normally or don't normally tune into my channel, just yesterday I posted my review for the new Dream Theater. Pete, I know you had yours up on there, so Parasomnia, that's up there if you want to check that out. And tomorrow I'll be posting albums turning 40 that don't get enough love. There's a lot of great albums that came out in 1985, but there's some of them that people think are the worst albums in collections that I happen to find as my favorite, as you saw some of my selection here today. So you can only imagine which ones I'm going to be leaning towards, but whole episode on that. And of course, later in the week, I'll be doing another Sound Exchange session with Anthony Coviello at Sound Exchange in Wayne, New Jersey. Cool topic. I'm sure we haven't filmed it yet, but we'll have that going on. So. All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. For Pete Pardo, Grant Arthur, and Phil Aston, I'm Brendan. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.